Wow, some serious developments going on today. Big news all across the board, and I want to share that with you guys, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Welcome back to Kyle's Financial News. I am your host, Kyle. Today's date is June 3rd, 2024. Everybody's talking about GameStop. I mean, as much as I kind of want to just ignore it and not focus on it too much, being a meme stock, I don't think it has fantastic investment value, but there's certainly a lot of trade opportunities going on there. A lot of attention is coming back around to user Roaring Kitty or Keith Gill. We've heard about him in the past from 2021 with the GameStop run up there, and he was actively disclosing his positions on Reddit, constantly providing updates to his followers. How he has gone from the value of his account from then to now, though, is just absolutely staggering. So we know as of now, last night, Sunday night, he made a post on r/superstonk. No longer is GameStop discussion allowed on Wall Street Bets subreddit for a couple years now. That has become a unspeakable word in that realm on that subreddit. So what we do know, let's look at what we do know. We know that on April 16th, 2021, he uploaded a photo still to Wall Street Bets at that time, and he labeled that as his final update, indicating that he was about to go dark for a while, but he wanted to seemingly let everybody know that he was not only still holding GameStop positions, but that he had also added on to his GameStop position before he would go on to not post again for multiple years. Now, if you've been following along with some of this just crazy story, is that he came out of his hiatus, his internet hiatus, just 2 weeks ago or so, or 3 weeks ago, and started posting memes on his Twitter account. Still not interacting with Wall Street Bets, still not interacting with Reddit at all, at least not under the username that we know him as. So when he started posting these memes on Twitter, that alluded to a whole bunch of theories of what was about to go down. Most notably was the meme where a gamer is leaning back in the desk chair or the computer chair, and suddenly they're forward in their game ready, they're in their stance or whatever. So a whole bunch of discussion started to whirl around. He's back. He's going to be saying more. He's going to be dropping some info. Something is about to happen. And that alone was enough to cause a rally of over 100%, which was absolutely wild. Now, as of Sunday, we might have some theories into why it rallied so much. And one of those theories of my own is that he was participating in buying on that day that he was posting as his coming back event on Twitter. So we know that on April 16th, 2021, his final update, his account value was $34.4 million. So that included $3.5 million in cash and 200,000 shares of GameStop stock at an average price of $55.17. Now, what we know as of last night is he is holding a position value that is north of $200 million, holding $29.2 million in cash, $65.7 million of call options, and $115.7 million through 5 million shares of GameStop stock. Holy crap. His average entry is at 21.27 cents. He's holding over 120,000 call contracts. Just, oh my goodness, absolutely ludicrous. The first thing that comes to my mind is, how did he grow his account from 34.4 million to over 200 million between April of 2021 and today? We're talking only about a 3-year period, and the return on that is not just 100, not even 200%. We're talking 400-500% returns on his 34 million. One of my theories, which I want to go over here, is that we know Keith Gill has previous experience working for a financial firm. We know that he actively trades, though not so clearly as to what extent. And we know that he seems to take pride, or at least he has some pride about maintaining his position, or at least the appearance of his position. So one of the things that I noticed while he was posting in 2021, going back and looking through his position updates on Reddit, is that his positions were typically in large, kind of even numbers: 50,000 shares, 10,000 shares, 200,000 shares. Now he's at 5 million shares. But what I think is going on in between those updates is a large volume of intraday trading to try to increase his overall position as a whole. And maybe he's not keeping that in the same account, so we don't end up seeing that. Maybe he's keeping that in cash at the end of the day. I was trying to just do a little bit of analysis to figure out how he might have been able to turn that 34 million into over 210 million between those 3 years. So looking at GME stock here historically, I highlighted a little yellow circle on his last known position that he posted in 2021, and just some of the squeezes and pumps it had throughout the years in the following 18 months or so, where I think he might have been playing a large part of these movements to be able to churn some additional position growth and be able to just harvest some sellers and buyers and add to his existing position, though he didn't want to continue to reveal about that clearly. So he wanted to keep that all quiet. Another theory that people were talking about was that he may have been trading crypto, possibly, even though he left his update for us with him holding 200,000 shares. We don't know that he then didn't go and sell those shares in the weeks and months later and go and put it into something like Bitcoin. And he's, been able to take the Bitcoin rally from 17, 18,000 or so all the way up to 60, 70,000 and get his 300, 400% there. Entirely possible. And now he's decided to come back to GameStop. That's not clear. I don't know if we will ever know that. I think it would be awfully interesting to someday have some insight about that. So if you have an idea on maybe how he got here today from that 34 million to the 210 million that his account is worth today, leave a comment. I'm really curious to know maybe what your thoughts on or about it. Please like and subscribe if you've liked the video so far. I have more for you though. More on the GameStop topic. His account balance being at 210 million as of yesterday is not all the news that we have. Naturally, once that info was out, that caused a rally in the stock. GameStop went up another 70% overnight before the opening session this morning. Absolutely crazy. Today's price action was just wild. Once the market opened, it immediately dumped. And so that brings to question, was he starting to sell and capitalize on that 70% overnight growth just purely from him announcing that he was holding a position and proof of it, which I didn't think that was the case. The volume was just absolutely wild. We ended having traded 163 million shares. The company only has some 300 million shares even available in the first place, and only some 270, 280 or so million shares available float. Insane. We're talking billions of dollars on a relatively small company, on a company that only is worth market cap $7, $8, $9 billion in total. That is not all though. He has again, not even 24 hours later, gone on r/superstonk and posted a update for the end of today 2 hours ago, as soon as the market closed, he was there posting more proof of his current position. It is completely unchanged. He is still holding 5 million shares at 21.27 cents. That's exactly identical. He's still holding 120,000 call option contracts for a June 21st of this year. So this month, only in 3 weeks or so, $20 strike call contracts. His position today, as of the end of market close, is now worth $289 million. He has grown almost $100 million in less than 24 hours. I can only imagine how surreal this must feel for him. I mean, talk about main character energy. I wouldn't even be able to think straight, let alone look at a screen and watch that position's value go up and down. Just absolutely crazy. That is not all that we had going on today, though. We also had some pretty big hiccups with the New York Stock Exchange. The prices that we were seeing on over 50 different ticker symbols, that was causing a lot of mayhem in the markets as well. We saw Berkshire Hathaway Class A and B, I believe both A and B, we saw it plunge all the way to virtually to zero, from 650,000 or so to zero. So clearly something is broken or had broken. Like I mentioned, about 50 stocks or so, or 50 tickers, were frozen for trading activity this morning until they resolved it. Looking into that issue more, of course, they're not going to reveal details beyond technical issues. The Consolidated Tape Association, the CTA, responsible for disseminating real-time trade data on stock exchanges, said Monday's problem was related to a new software release at one of its data centers. Okay. The NYSE and the CTA said the problem was related to limit up, limit down bands meant to prevent extraordinary market volatility and extreme price movements in individual stocks by preventing trades outside of specific price ranges. Interesting. The gist of that is that they released a software update to one of their order processing data centers to be able to better have a control of the limit up, limit down process. And if you're not familiar with that, the limit up, limit down, the whole point of limit ups and limit downs is to curtail potentially explosive, out of control volatility for very short time frames. So it's if a stock is moving beyond 10% within about a 5-minute window. So that can apply in both directions. And sometimes they will even put this into effect prior to a large news event coming out. A company can warn ahead of time and say, hey, we have some unexpected either positive news, or typically it's negative news. Let's pause the stock so the market can be notified of the news. Participants and retail traders can take a moment to digest it and then determine, okay, am I going to go long or short from here, or am I going to make a move at all? Versus people just seeing a headline, punching in a trade, and then afterwards going back and reading the details and realizing, oh, it was actually a negative event, and the headline was maybe worded a little bit positively, or vice versa. So there is a purpose to the limit up, limit down bands. My understanding was that functionality was working perfectly fine, and it has been for years. That's functionality that has been around for over a decade. I'm surprised that suddenly it needs a software update to the point that it breaks systems and causes potentially millions of dollars of damages for traders. In February 2023, the New York Stock Exchange said it would reimburse investors for losses due to a glitch that caused widespread confusion and resulted in thousands of trades being nullified. The NYSE did not respond to a request for comment about whether or not it would reimburse investors potentially affected by Monday's issue, today's problem this morning. I mean, they're the ones to be held accountable for it, if anything. Berkshire Hathaway's stock was one of the ones that was really being talked about the most. And supposedly there was a few purchase orders that were filled around the $183 territory on a $650,000 stock. That's a pretty big deal. So what is going to happen to the individual or the entity that purchased those shares? Are they just going to be told, too bad, so sad? we're going to undo that order. It technically didn't count in the favor of the company. Or is this an issue that the NYSE needs to eat and own up on? And why are we even allowing these types of issues to take place in a modern trading system is something that I beg to question. This is something that you would think is being tested virtually in kind of cloned testing environments where they can replicate trading activity and potentially find issues and fix those bugs and resolve those issues before it goes public. So we'll see if the NYSE ends up paying out a couple $1 million in damages for not just that one ticker, but the 49 others where potentially some traders were affected. So that's what I have for today. I am dying to see GameStop's price action tomorrow. That should be absolutely wild, especially having Roaring Kitty posted another update as soon as market closed today. Clearly, he is unwavering in his position. The market activity for GameStop today overall was not great after the open. I think it's just being attacked by hedge funds and large institutional traders trying to take advantage of maybe some not so confident buyers and harvest some stop losses and some retail longs by shorting the stock pretty aggressively. No telling what tomorrow will hold. I will have more updates in the coming days. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing, like the video, dislike the video, leave a comment. I'm really curious about your opinion with how Mr. Gill was able to turn $34 million into $210 million in between these last 3 years.